Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you are. Welcome once again to No Nerd Caliber, the show in which we, the folks at Nerd Caliber, talk about things that we like. Our favorite things related to something interesting going on in nerd entertainment in the current zeitgeist. Guess what, folks? In case you really haven't noticed, it's St. Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day to all of my fellow Nerd Caliber compatriots and everybody out there. So our topic tonight is our top 3 favorite couples in any nerdy entertainment. Joining me tonight, and we are going to start off with the first appearance of our newest member of the team, Victoria. If you would introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Victoria. You guys seen me do a couple of interviews so far for Nerd Caliber, and it's the first time I'm joining the No Nerd Caliber live stream. I'm excited.
Awesome. Excellent videographer, interviewer. Keep paying attention, folks. And we're going to skip diagonally to me up to the Ernst Stavro Blofeld. If you would introduce yourself, sir.
No, Mr. Brown, I expect you to die. I know, I'm crossing a variety of streams. Hi, everybody. This is Rosie Kitten. She said hello. She occasionally is chill enough to join, but it's sleepy time, so hello. Hi, Greg Snyder, aka Wonder Llama Photography and or cosplay, depending on the time and day. Getting excited about some upcoming cons. Might actually get to see these lovely people in person again for the maybe first time in quite a very long time. Got a lot of fun photography projects coming up. If you're in the greater Boston area, we are Red Raven Studios. Whatever you're looking for, we can do some crazy photo shoots with you guys. So look us up on Instagram, Facebook, all the usual stuff.
Yes. Greater Boston. Very greater Boston.
Not
sorry.
Close enough to be considered Boston Metro.
It's also close enough to be considered Providence, Rhode Island, much closer. But anyway. And the man who started all of this insanity, Manny, if you would introduce yourself, please.
Hello, everyone. I am Manny. I am the founder of Nerd Caliber, and I'm excited for Valentine's Day just because the day after, half price off on candies. That's right.
That is a good reason to celebrate, and of course, that's the best reason to celebrate if you are also in the Happy Singles Awareness Day. So, just saying for those of you out there, we recognize you as well. So, like I said, this is top 3 favorite couples in nerd entertainment. Before we jump into that, we're going to do our first promo, and that is, of course, our Twitch promo. If you have a Twitch account, we would love to have you visit us at that URL on your screen right now, twitch.tv/nerdcaliber. We're pretty much /nerdcaliber on any kind of social media you can think of. And we'd love to have you follow us. We're trying to build our following there, sort of like we have our amazing following on YouTube. Let's see if we can get those numbers up. So twitch.tv/nerdcaliber. And now we're going to start into our picks. Oh, by the way, just to make sure everybody, in case you haven't realized this yet, folks, whenever I put up the teaser images that rotate in the first couple of minutes before we start, none of those people are in our lists. I guarantee you absolutely that Kirito and Asuna are not on anybody's favorite couples list. Or Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne. So, maybe.
Why they call it a teaser.
That's right. They could call it a fake, is what they could call it. But the real stuff is coming right up. We're going to do this like we always do. If we got a lot of people, we go alphabetical by first name, which means Greg, your number 3 is our first topic.
Okay. So my number 3 is probably, I'm going to guess everyone has seen this movie. It was the driving story arc for the characters, for everything that happened to the character, everything the character did once he went from normie to a superhero. And my number 3 is Deadpool and Vanessa, obviously from the Deadpool movies, primarily the first one. I mean, talk about 2 incredibly broken people finding each other. That montage of when they're let's just say ensconced in their little apartment is a little bit of genius. It's a morphu in the real sense of just sheer crazy, passionate love between two people, and the lengths that he goes to be able to get back to her after basically he gets a terminal cancer diagnosis is it's the stuff that comic book fiction is made out of or made from. There's one particular part in that sequence in particular, I don't know exactly how spicy we can get, but just the scene that probably everybody laughed at the hardest in that whole one, that just absolutely sealed it for me.
I think you can identify the holiday they're celebrating. I believe it was International Women's Day, if that's the...
Yes, fair. That's exactly what it was.
Yes.
Exactly. So, yeah, absolutely love them. The second one leaned into it a little harder, but not quite as well in my view. But, yeah, that they were a great couple in that first one. Even though they didn't actually spend, other than that little sequence in the beginning, they didn't really spend that much time together.
Yeah.
But that was the driving force behind everything that happened subsequently.
I gotta say, Ryan Reynolds made his career, in addition to like wild movies, but also romantic comedies. And there isn't a more believable chemistry in any of his other romantic comedies than Wade and Vanessa. I mean, they work perfectly together.
I would say close, even though it's not a nerdy film, The Proposal with Sandra Bullock. I thought that was pretty decent.
I thought, yeah, like I said, he's made really good ones, but far and away in my mind, that relationship, is the most believable thing he's done.
Yeah, I feel like Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds together is not super believable.
No.
So who's out of whose league in that scenario?
Oh,
I just think they're in different
two
worlds.
Different, different worlds.
Yeah. Oh, and the fact that it was filmed in my old office building. Two Ryan Reynolds movies filmed in my old office building, by the way. And I never saw him once. How's that?
I mean, security already had your number, so
probably from when I went to take pictures of Bruce Willis when he was making his movie in Boston. Anyway, that's a completely different story. Manny, you're number 3.
My number 3 is from Star Trek Discovery, Paul and Hugh. Hugh is the doctor on the Discovery as well, and Paul is the, I guess, chief engineer. Mm-hmm. I have to say, because I just caught up with the latest season right now. They're 2 episodes away from finishing, and I've been this series has been difficult at times to watch, but the romance between Hugh and Paul and how they've grown together in the last 4 seasons is remarkable. They are my favorite couple on Star Trek, like more than Diana and Riker, and some other ones. But they're definitely my favorite. They're the ones actually I get worried about separating in any way. Usually I don't care that much in Star Trek, because that's not the main focus of the show. The show's about exploration and inner discoveries and things like that. But I really care about this couple, and I love seeing how they grow. The actors are stupendous. When Hugh died, I hope I'm not spoiling anything. This is in season 1. When Hugh died in season 1, I was really upset. I almost gave up the show at that point, but they brought him back, and I was very happy. But yeah, they're definitely my favorite couple right now in Star Trek.
Yep. Oh, and foreshadowing, somebody may argue with you about your position as favorite couple in the entire Star Trek canon.
Oh,
just saying.
Bring it on. Bring it
on. But I agree. They are wonderful. Putting them through, like, one of them dies in the first season, like you mentioned, putting them through that level of, couple destruction this early on, normally I would feel that they were forcing this sense that they are a real couple on us by having them go through so much trauma so quickly. And it's a credit to the actors that doesn't appear to be the case. They really do an excellent job of portraying these two people as deeply connected, normally
Yes.
deeply connected to each other.
Yeah, they both have suffered a lot, and I'm really glad they don't like gloss over it. They actually bring it up a lot of times in their discussions with each other, and they try to work it out. And at times they have really bad communication problems, like like a real couple has.
Yep.
So all that, I kind of the only thing that if there's anything I don't like about it is that Star Trek Discovery does not spotlight that more. Like in the latest episode, they only had like maybe 2 minutes of talk time, and that was it. And although that was great, it actually probably the best part of that episode. Wait till the spoiler episode about that. I got some things to say about it. But
Now, I'm not caught up. I'm caught up to the break, but not after the break. So we'll have to see.
But the Paul and Hugh are just great characters.
Yep. So, speaking of communication problems, my number 3, Subaru and Amelia from ReZero starting life over in another world. The reason they're on here is I like to think that in the real world, it is possible for someone like Subaru, who starts off the anime essentially as an incel, can become the wonderfully devoted, loving person that he becomes by the end of the second season. I don't know that that's actually true in the real world. I doubt it very much. But the fact that they have a character who starts off as pretty much the worst possible one side of a relationship that you can imagine, and then through the course of all of the things the two of them go through in 2 seasons, becomes really a much better person, both in all ways, but also most particularly in the way his relationship with Amelia, well, becomes a relationship. The only reason they're down at number 3 is because, 1, there's only 2 seasons, and 2, she only really comes to the realization that she has any kind of feelings for him in addition by the end of the second season. So they're not traditionally a couple in that sense until literally 2 seasons through. But they are adorable. That's one of the top reasons why they're on this list, is couples to watch, even though they're not technically a couple through most of it. They're a sort of a building couple. It's just adorable to watch, and really painful when early on, well, I guess later through the first core of the first season, Amelia calls him out on his bullshit, on his incel bullshit, like harshly, destroys him. And it's a cheering moment when you realize, it's like, this is great. There are people out there who can do this, call people out like that, and things for these two at least then move on past it. Takes a while. He's really a jerk at times. But I think that it's just such a wonderful example of how growth in a relationship can be presented, where two people who start from pretty much not having any relationship with each other, except one kind of thinks the other's really cute and the other kind of relies on the first one because it's convenient, and then develops into a real relationship. So that's my number 3. All right, moving on. Victoria. Number 3.
Similar to yours in why I picked it. This one skirted into my number 3 because it's literally the cutest couple that, like, literally them meeting is Toothless and the Light Fury, who I don't believe has a name. I haven't watched the TV series to figure out if she has a name. But all I can find out is that her name is Light Fury. Like, that's what they refer to it as. And it's absolutely adorable. There's kind of a theme. So if you're watching, guess what the theme is for all 3 of mine. So I really just being able to watch it and see, like, how animators nowadays are being able to put in human emotions into these creatures that are otherworldly and don't actually exist, and being able to have it be relatable, just like this awkward little dragon who finds this other dragon that he really likes. It's just the animation for it's adorable. Toothless is the cutest thing in the entire world because he's like a little puppy, but also like the development that with Hiccup, he was working to like impress Ingrid and all that. And then now in the second one, like Toothless gets the love and like gets to go through all that awkward thing. And it's like a really nice way to connect them as characters, which like you kind of get that they're both a little awkward and stuff, but just like it's almost like a replay of the first one, but now in the eyes of Toothless. And also like he draws her with a stick, and it's so bad, but it's so cute because he's so impressed by himself. He's like, yeah, I did it. They pretty much that was like it beat out a couple other ones for me just because I was like, I can't not put them in. They're literally the cutest little creature couples ever.
Yep. I gotta say, it just occurred to me. I picked this image out hours ago as I was prepping for the show. Boy, does this give off really big vibes of another one of your picks. The image is just the standard one of the two of them head to head, looking straight into the camera at a cave. But wow, does that? And we're talking two completely different.
Whatever could we be talking about,
exactly.
Folks?
Also, and I agree with you, as you guys were all posting your various picks, I'm going like, yeah, damn it. I discarded an awful lot of stuff that is on your lists and could easily have been my number 3, number 2, maybe even my number 1. So.
Yep.
All right, Greg, back to you at number 2.
Number 2. This is kind of funny that I think based on what we put down in the group here, Manny and I split this one. So we're gonna get both sides now, as it were. One of the great movie romances of all time, in my mind. I mean, you go back to Bogey and Bacall. They were fantastic together. Not exactly nerd adjacent stuff, but stuff that fits more into the nerd genres. The chemistry between the actors was palpable. The way they interacted with each other was magic, and the fact they've become sort of a couple goal meme, if you will, or a hashtag, tells you kind of everything you need to know. So in case you haven't put it together, I'm thinking of Gomez and Morticia, specifically Raul Julia and Angelica Houston from the first 2 Addams Family movies. I know there's a couple of other sequels after that, but neither one of them was in that. They were just, who wouldn't want a romance like that in their life? Straight, gay, bi, pan, you name it. That love is transcendent, and the care that they have for each other it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. What else can you say? It literally is a hashtag. Couple goals. Absolutely love them. I have done a few Addams Family cosplays myself, and it's always a good time. And it really helps when the folks that are with you playing Gomez and Morticia are in love with each other.
It is fantastic. It's really hard to choose between your choices and Manny's. That's a tough call. I don't know about the current animated ones. So you've got what, Oscar Isaac and Charlize Theron? Yeah. But
it's not horrible, but
the movies are basically about Wednesday, and everyone else just happens to be there.
Okay.
To a large extent. It's cute, but it's much more aimed at sort of a G-rated, PG-rated type of audience. So while the Addams Family movies were probably PG-13, I'm sure, I doubt they were R. I don't
No,
remember
they definitely
offhand.
weren't R.
There's no nudity, there's no swearing, there's no graphic, sexual anything, but it's much more adult. The
Yeah.
relationship is much more of an adult married couple relationship, the passion that they have between them. Whereas on the movies, the animated movies, it's much more mom and dad.
Okay. Well, Manny, let's talk about your number 2 since we're kind of in this wheelhouse.
My number 2 are Gomez Morticia, but the Addams Family TV version, the old black and white TV version, and same sentiments and words that Greg have said. The only thing I would like to add, something to get our viewers to think about. So when they made the Addams Family as a TV show, they wanted to do a kooky, strange, odd family, and when they presented this couple, Gomez and Morticia, how did they portray them? They weren't like mass murderers. They weren't weird or creepy. They just adored each other. So the fact that this adoration seems strange kind of reflects at what the 50s and 60s were kind of like in some ways, like how do they view romance and love? I always found that pretty interesting. That, like, to me, all of us, I'm pretty sure, we look at Gomez and Patricia, we think like that's like the most awesome romantic couple ever, and to think that in the 50s, 60s that would have seen as weird or odd. Just wanted to share that.
Yeah.
So, Squad Latvia, welcome to the show. They're on YouTube. High School DxD is the best. If you can get past the endless fan service ecchi, it actually is a pretty interesting relationship. I got to agree with you there. I'm not sure if I'd call it best, but there is actually a relationship there buried underneath all of that fan service. But interesting point. All right. My number 3. Oh, sorry.
One real quick thing. To Manny's point, one of the things that I've always found fascinating, both about the TV series and the movies, was how well the showrunners, then Barry Sonnenfeld, the director, made them, Gomez and Morticia, seem very normal, and everyone else was effed up. Everyone else was weird and odd and unexplainable and just like, what's going on in there? What? And for all that, they live in the house that they live in. They've got, Morticia clips the buds off of roses and keeps the dead stems. Take your pick of odd sort of goth behavior. They're a normal, loving, parental couple, and everyone else is weirdos.
So, best couple number 2B, Christopher Lloyd and Joan Cusack? Or maybe not.
I'll accept that. Genuine.
All right, my number 2, the second longest running according to the official sources, but I think I'm going to argue that it's the longest running couple relationship in the X-Men comics universe, Rogue and Gambit. They're on here because one, again, they're pretty adorable. These two Southerners who connected almost immediately when Rogue joined the team, and just have been that way almost nonstop ever since. And two, they are a couple. They are a very interesting, devoted couple that seems like, as best comic book characters can, real people who care about each other. And technically the longest running relationship there is obviously Scott and Jean. I think there's a really big many-year break there when she was supposedly dead. So I still think this is the longest one, but we'll let actual serious comic book nerds argue that somewhere else. But they got married. They got married because it was Gambit who finally said, "Look, I'm tired of you not making a decision. Get over your fear of your powers. Get over this concern. Either, it's not the terms he used, but, fish or cut bait." And she said yes. Marvel pulled a fast one with, X-Men Gold number 30 was supposed to be about Kitty Pryde and Colossus, and it turned out to be their wedding. And then they did two wonderful, well, actually, the one was just before it. So they did a wonderful 5-issue miniseries called Rogue and Gambit. They had the wedding, and then did the excellent 12-issue short run Mr. and Mrs. X. Go read it. It's fantastic. And yeah, so, the two Southerners, Mississippi and Louisiana, they are my choice for number 2.
So, it's a question: why them versus Scott and Jean? Because they're obviously the better known, the more iconic in their own way. I mean, I would put them at tier 1 and Rogue and Gambit at 1A or tier 2. Just curious why. What about them you like better than you might Jean and Scott? Forget about longest running or.
Because they are a believable couple. There's nothing about the relationship between Scott and Jean that is anything other than, we're going to make the leader of the X-Men in a romantic relationship with the one female character in the X-Men back when it was first created. Obviously, there's now, I think, 1.7 billion X-Men or something. I can't remember what the number is.
Aren't we all X-Men?
Aren't we, at this point, aren't we all? And so I think their relationship is absolutely believable. I could say Kitty Pryde and Colossus, except that is no longer a relationship. This is one that is stood the test of time, more so than anything else in the X-Men, any other connected relationship. And you buy it. They've been through some tough times, like every neither one of them has died for any length of time like Jean did, and then Scott went and married a Jean clone that he knew looked just like her. It's just, anyway. Yeah, my reason is that Scott and Jean aren't believable as a couple, no matter what they want to try to tell you.
It was always contrived. It was always a plot point.
Yep.
How did you feel about the Magneto? For some reason, they try to force the idea of Magneto and Rogue, like pair them together. Do you remember that?
So when they tried to do any of that stuff, it always ultimately has been not retconned because it's part of the story. Some other influence is going on. Like when Rogue was cheating with this mutant Fox, I think was her name. That was actually Mystique basically trying to prove to Rogue, I'm sorry, when Gambit was cheating, that Gambit was not good enough for her. So, Mystique basically pretended to be this other, mutant and tried to sleep with her foster daughter's boyfriend. So,
wasn't that on General Hospital?
It really is. But anyway, yeah. So I dislike any time that they try to force those relationships, but at least with the Rogue Gambit ones, they're almost always explained as somebody else is doing some, background crap to screw with these people. As opposed to, again, Scott and Jean, where Scott just up and went, "Hey, you look like my dead girlfriend." Anyway.
Which is never creepy at all.
Never creepy at all. Victoria, save us from this garbage fire. What is your number 2, please?
Okay, so this is where Emmanuel and I will probably disagree, but I drive him to work, so he has to deal with it. So my number 2 is Spock and Uhura. And please don't hate me. I know that I need to watch the old series, but honestly, it came out before I was born, and it's a lot of media to consume, so don't yell at me. I've at least seen the new movies, and that's been my little gateway into getting into that Star Trek world. But Zachary Quinto and Zoe oh my god, can't say it. Zoe Saldana.
There you go.
Too many S symbols. Like, as someone who is new to Star Trek, and like those were the first things I've seen. Actually, I think maybe I went when I was younger, but I don't remember anything. To just get like slapped in the face with that odd relationship right off the bat in the movies, I was just like, wait, what? Like, I thought he doesn't feel anything. How does he have a girlfriend? And it was just like the weirdest thing. But then you go through and like you're watching the movie and you're like, wow, like they actually really like care for each other. And it's really interesting to me to see how they have this character who's like has that half ability to be able to feel these things, and he chooses to. So I think it really shows like a good like the importance of that love to him. So like it's kind of like a little, it's not so to the point, which I think is what I really enjoy about it. Also, like, you have to love Zoe. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that's just, she's obviously just in the top. She's hot. So yeah, I really just love, they're both really smart. They're both driven to do like really good things. Their relationship doesn't get in the way of the story. Whereas like so many other things that just like boggles down the story, it helps play into everything they're doing together. And like when they argue, it like starts to add this comedy into it. Like, oh, like they're actually going to argue while we're trying to save the world. Like, what are they doing? Like, why are they doing this? But then it's just like this cute little geeky romance that I just absolutely adore.
I say, I have, if anybody who's watched a number of these shows, anytime the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies comes up, you know I have a lot of problems with them. The character relationships are not one of them. You know, he does some wonderful things with everybody, from this couple to the sadly, you know, past Aaron or Anton Yelchin, almost everything. Even, you know, even the newly grumpy, pissy version of Bones and his relationship with Kirk, you know, all of it that's excellent.
Yeah.
You know,
oh,
go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say I found that this particular relationship that we're talking about in this version, this iteration, especially amusing, given the sort of James Kirk and Uhura stuff from the original series. I mean, I've watched it. I don't honestly remember it, but that was a cultural, you know, inflection point in a lot of ways. It was widely regarded as the first interracial kiss on network television. And, you know, obviously Kirk being Kirk, you know, say what you will about whether there was romance there or just hormones. I appreciate the fact that in the new movies, Uhura and Spock are a much better fit because they're much more intellectually on each other's level and can relate to each other on a level that's not just hormones.
For the OG Star Trek nerds jump in and rip you apart, the kiss was forced by basically psychokinetic Romans, for lack of a better term. But
there's some weird episodes on old
Come at me, Trekkies. I don't care.
Yeah. But that still doesn't take anything away from the fact that it, one, was the very first interracial kiss on television, and how culturally significant that was.
Yep.
I do want to say that going back to what you said, Ronnie, about like the relationships are like one of the best things about the new Star Trek movies. I did like the fact that they were kind of re-examining Spock's relationship with his emotions.
Yeah.
Because it always seemed like in the OG series, he always tried to keep it in and keep it under control. And I think we know nowadays that, you know, it's not a healthy thing to do, to bottle your emotions. So the fact that that was explored, I thought that was refreshing.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not a healthy thing for humans, and Spock is half human. Clearly, the Vulcans have a different way of being able to deal with repressing emotions.
And they are, I mean, yeah, that's exactly it. They're not free of emotion. They've just prioritized intellect over emotion to the point where emotion gets completely pushed down. Yeah, don't quote me on that, Trekkies. Don't come for me. I'm not a hardcore Trekker. Um, what was I going to say? What just made me, what I thought of when we were talking about that, and I'm blanking on the name of it. One of the single best episodes of Next Generation was Patrick Stewart when I'm so crappy with names. Rodney, you're the encyclopedia here. You'll know exactly the episode I'm talking about. When Spock's father has to go to a meeting, and it's when he goes through that periodic, when all your emotions come out.
Oh yes, the amok time.
And yes, exactly. And Patrick Stewart basically is the conduit for all of that. That and the Kardashian episode are two of just the most outstanding performances by anybody in that series, but that one in particular, because it's just, okay, here you go, Sir Patrick, just be emotion. Here you go. The cameras are rolling. Just be emotion for 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it was.
And again, waiting for all of the comments, but Cardassian, not the.
Did I say Kardashian?
You did. So
it's probably because all of the silly news today about stuff. So
exactly.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yes. I would rather hang out with a Cardassian than a Kardashian.
Yes. Yes. All right. So, time to move into our number ones. So, Greg, since you were talking, and alphabetically, this is the way we're doing this anyway.
Okay.
Number one.
I mean, this was tough, especially with no honorable mentions. I mean, just without going into detail, it could easily have said Wesley and Buttercup, Seymour and Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors. One of my personal favorites, Fry and Leela. That was 8 seasons of Will They, Won't They that culminated in a fantastic final episode. But for me, the single most delightful and devastating couple of anything that I've ever seen takes place in literally 10 minutes, and it's an opening montage with Carl and Ellie from Up. I mean, it's literally in a basically, wordless montage with just beautiful music. There's a meet cute, they get married, they live together, they grow old together, and she dies. And oh my God, even just talking about it, you get the lump. It's hard not to. They were adorable together, and that, I mean, not that I wish that kind of emotional devastation on anybody, but we should all be so lucky in life as to have a partner whose loss you feel that deeply. It's a weird way to put that on Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, folks.
Sorry, I'm coming at this from a weird angle. I apologize.
Well, it is during the time of COVID, so
It is true. But yeah, I mean, that the depth of their connection and their bond. I mean, the fact that Pixar was able to depict that so beautifully and so realistically in a 10-minute montage with no dialogue, and absolutely just, I mean, I don't think I can think of a single person who's watched that movie who doesn't feel like they've had the rug pulled out from under them at that scene and doesn't get very emotional.
So just a second, jumping back just a little bit, Luminous jumps into the chat, and trust Luminous. Hello all, that TNG episode is Sarek, and he's emotional because he has Bendy syndrome. So, and that Bendii apparently, not like Bendy syndrome, which would be really funny. But
anyway, and
sorry, go ahead.
It's also in a weird way the driving force behind the rest of the movie. Even though she obviously is not, she's an off-screen presence in the rest of the movie in a lot of ways. And we all, Victoria, you probably haven't met our friend Cosplay Dad, but the three of us have known a local cosplayer for quite a few years, Rodney and my generation, who one of his first cosplays was Mr. Fredrickson, and he walked around with the little walker with the tennis balls and the big thing of balloons on it. And he was absolutely wonderful. Just made a ton of friends. Great portrayal of a great character. But yeah, I mean, we should all be so fortunate in life as to have that kind of connection with somebody.
I still have one of his very first. He gave away Adventure Club badges.
Yes.
The little bottle cap things.
Yeah. That's where I was going with that. Yeah.
And I still have one of them on my photo vest. I've had it for almost 10 years at this point. Anyway.
So anybody who's not around here, he makes the little bottle caps of Ellie's Adventure Club with little safety pins on them. And if you're around New England and beyond, and you see somebody that's got a bottle cap pinned to their shirt or their vest or their costume, that's why.
Yep. Yeah, that's just absolutely devastating. Pixar does devastating really well. This, they cranked the dial up and broke it.
I feel like a broken human because I might be the only person that I appreciate Up for what it is. It's not my favorite movie. But I was just like, oh, okay, they lived a life and then she died because that's what happens. And everyone else was sobbing and I was like, am I supposed to be upset?
You're a monster.
I was like, is this a feeling I'm supposed to but how can you be upset when literally you could not ask for anything better as a whole life with someone like this?
Absolutely.
It's not like she tragically died in her 30s.
True.
They both lived a full life. And yes, I think that makes them a great couple.
Yep.
Not arguing you that. I never understood why people were so upset. It's part of life to have to deal with that loss. And I was just like, what else could he ask for? Does he want her to live forever? Yeah. It's not going to happen.
That's an entirely fair. That's entirely valid. Yep. They got what everyone would realistically hope for. You live a long life with a partner you love, and eventually one of the other of them is going to die, probably before the other one. It happens.
I'm hearing Queen who wants to live forever.
So while all of that's true, they crank the pathos to 11 with the whole dying scene.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was about that. It's hard to describe. We've all seen, I don't know, Love Story and Brian's Song and stuff like that where someone dies and it's very painful. None of those felt, to me, remotely the same emotional impact. This was a gut punch.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's what we all strive for. We all strive to have that one person that we can live this wonderful life with for the longest time. So I don't know if that's what people are reacting to, because again, I was just like, oh, she's 1,000,000 years old, she's dead, that's what happens. So I guess I wonder if people are reacting to her dying or the fact that this story doesn't get to continue forever, if deep down they're just reacting to the fact that even if you do get this happily ever after, doesn't last forever. You know what I mean?
I think personally it was reacting to Carl's loss. For me, it wasn't just that, they had lived this wonderful life. It's like, we now get to see how this poor old man has to deal with this loss going forward.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm sure this isn't just sort of an ageism thing here going on. I'm just want to say, that's not a lot.
No, I literally think
the old guys here are all like, "Oh my God, we're gonna cry."
No,
like, okay,
everyone
whatever.
I know is just so upset, and I'm like,
you're a monster.
Am I part Vulcan?
Does explain your choice of
Am I
Spock? Does explain your choice of Spock as a romantic.
Everything comes perfectly clear now.
Person, though, it does quite a bit.
Yeah, Rodney, I was just thinking the same thing. It isn't so much her death as it is his loss and the grief, because you can identify with that grief. And I'm sure everyone's lost a family member old or young, tragic, or dying in bed in your 90s, or a family pet you've had forever that hits you in that same way. It's the people that are left behind that have to deal with that loss and that grief and that anger, etc.
Yeah.
That I personally identified with how that must feel for him.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't recall if I felt emotional, but I remember feeling that, like, wow, what a great story in these first 10 minutes. I thought that was just amazing. And I'm like, wow, and the movie's still going to keep going. I wonder what's going to happen next. It was just such a brilliant
Yep.
scene of brilliant story.
Yeah, I think it's really smart that they did it in such a short amount of time too, because not that I'm like make her die quick, but yeah, but to be able to, because when you think about a lot of other stories, like it takes a little bit for them to like build up this relationship in order to like have that scene more impactful, but to be able to do it like set in that montage in 10 minutes is just like, it's so smart, because then you have this like, you get the sudden loss that he gets, but then you have the rest of the story to figure out how he's going to react to that.
Yep.
So it's not like the big inciting incident of whatever the movie is. It's just like,
Absolutely.
what's next?
And I agree with you. I love Up. I wouldn't necessarily say it's my favorite Pixar movie, but that there is something about that core relationship. I mean, my wife and I have a print from a local artist of Carl and Ellie sitting together in rocking chair, like a watercolor print over our bed in our bedroom.
Cool.
Yes, I'm a sap.
The cynic in me might say, as they were writing the script, someone went, you know what? We've got to give everybody a reason to be invested emotionally in why he's taking this weird journey. And somebody went, hey, let's just kill his wife in the first 10 minutes.
I mean,
yeah,
it's vintage
that's
Disney.
It. That'll
You got to have a
work.
dead spouse or parent within the first 10 minutes in a Disney movie. It's
Well,
part of the
that's
contract.
True. That's true. It is
Pretty
a
much.
Disney movie. It's a good point. At least she didn't get killed by a stampede. All right, Manny, you're number one.
You didn't see the first draft where Scar threw her off the cliff?
He holds her out of the house with the balloons, just lets her go.
So for my number one, let's talk about The Mummy. Now I know people have had a hard time understanding, but I always felt that the relationship between Tom Cruise and that monster was just like magical. I just don't understand why people were so upset about that.
Oops, I ruined your joke by moving the picture over too early.
Well played, Manny.
Well played.
Seriously though, the Mummy movie with Rick and Evelyn, Brendan Fraser, and I forgot the actress's name. That was just
Rachel Weisz or
yes.
Weiss.
That was just there's many movies where like the characters meet up and they fall in love, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but The Mummy just hits it out of the park. It's a wonderful film. It's a perfect blend of action, romance, horror, and all. It just works. And actually all the characters relationships are just amazing. Even the minor characters are amazing. But the love story between Rick and Evelyn, I don't know. I feel like that is the love story. Like if someone asked me to describe what's a great love story, I would point to The Mummy.
I think I can agree with that 100%. And I love the fact that Evie, so O'Connell is charming and kind of, boisterous, kind of,
He's Han Solo.
He's Han Solo, except, in my opinion, better. But Evie is equally as charming. She's sort of bumbling, but that doesn't get in the way of her charm. She is equally as invested in, the story and driving the plot forward. She is in no way, shape, or form a damsel in distress or a wilting flower. And I love the fact that these two come together as essentially equals with really different personalities except their charm, which are like right on the same level.
Yeah, that sums it up. I actually just my wife had never seen it. We watched it about 2 weeks ago, and it's you've got to revel in all of its old Hollywood, ridiculous, cheesy, delightful glory.
Yep. Yeah. Although you could make an argument that one of the best couples is Benny and Any Kind of Money, but
Fair.
but yeah, the performances all through this are wonderful. But these two, it's hard to say what my favorite performance of any of these two actors is because they've both done such wonderful work in nerd stuff and outside nerd stuff. But this is probably close to the very top for both of them for me. So, excellent choice. All right, my number one, and yes, I understand that this is exactly the poster child for recency bias, but it's Naomi and Holden from The Expanse, from the series, from the streaming series. I haven't read the books, so I don't know how much their relationship differs in the books. But the reason that, well, again, one of the reasons is Expanse. So, like I said, both recency bias and content bias. But one of the other major reasons is, and Victoria mentioned the idea of sort of themes, for various of us that you can recognize. One of mine is growth throughout their relationship. And this relationship grows. It starts as a fairly solid romantic relationship that then grows through all kinds of troubles, but once again, sort of like Rogue and Gambit, they're not the usual tropey, oh, somebody cheated on somebody and now they've got to their troubles are ethical, moral issues that would possibly destroy anybody, to say nothing about a relationship. And again, this is mostly Naomi's story, and in the streaming series, Holden is kind of the audience insert character. He's the reactor. He reacts to, he reacts to Miller. He reacts to the protomolecule things, beings, whatever. He reacts to Naomi's issues. She's the one that has the greater issues that she has to deal with. But as somebody who is part of this relationship, he has to deal with them too. And how they write, how they deal with these things is wonderful and makes them one of the most mature couples in all of this nerd entertainment that I could have chosen from. And I guess that's the reason why they're at my number one. They are probably the most mature couple that has to go through 6 seasons of all sorts of difficulties.
Literal hell.
Literal hell. So yeah, so that's, Naomi and Holden are my number one.
That's a good call. So I haven't, inexplicably, I still haven't watched past season 1, but I've read all the books and I've listened to all the audiobooks. And it's funny, that couple didn't occur to me when I was thinking through who I would put on this list, but I definitely agree with you. I mean, they're not your sort of classic. They're not O'Connell and Evie. They're not. There's no meet cute. There's no Bogey and Bacall or Bogey and Hepburn kind of, or Tracy and Hepburn kind of cuteness to it. It's real. It's dirty. It's gritty. It's ugly at times, more than a couple of times. Interestingly, their relationship in the book starts out more as a shipboard hookup than a real, I think you're interesting. Let's go out on a date and be a couple. But yeah, the stuff that they go through and hell and back again. It's a good choice. I like it.
Cool. All right, bring us home. Give us the number one choice on your list, Victoria.
So clearly you figure out my theme once I tell you this one. But basically, I really enjoy when filmmakers can show human emotion through people or creatures that you wouldn't expect. And who wouldn't you expect to be able to love? Robots. But Wall-E loves Eva, and they are so cute. I love unconventional love stories. I love that in a world where literally everything is destroyed and robots are going around picking up just garbage, that this tiny little cute robot has found, also he found my favorite movie of all time, which is Hello Dolly. Because it's like the last, literally the opposite of what you just said, like the last big, like classical Hollywood grand love, and this is what he wants more than anything. And then Eva comes, and he is just head over heels for this little tiny robot that like doesn't care about him at all. But like it's just so cute. Clearly, I have like cute relationships too. But the fact that, again, like it's in a world where everything's demolished, like this is the one emotion that's left on Earth, and that's what he wants. Like everything else is just done, but love still lasts, and he's willing to do whatever to get her. It is one of those like, oh, like I have to impress this girl to get her to like me, which normally I would hate because, feminism. But like it's like this new take on that want of romance is never going to die, no matter what. Like it's always going to be there. To have someone who does care for you and will do anything for you, that's never going to go anywhere, even when robots are taking over the world. Like it's always going to be there. And like relationships start to form once everyone like comes back to Earth, and that's the first thing back too. Like it's never left, it's never going anywhere. Love is always there.
It's interesting that you're right. This could, if portrayed differently, seem stalkerish. He doesn't. Well, I mean, she doesn't ever say no. She doesn't say anything. But it's so she doesn't say. He doesn't take no for an answer. He just, he takes the rejection or the indifference more than rejection, and just keeps going.
Yeah.
And they handle it so well that it doesn't come across that way. And I think that's credit obviously to Pixar, their writers, directors, and so on.
The thing that I was thinking much the sort of same thing about that. I think it works because it's sort of that idealized platonic love. I don't get I mean, I'm not going to get into lurid robot sex stuff at all. That's
you can
love,
find
death,
that
and
on
robots.
the internet
That's a
somewhere
whole other
if you
thing.
want, folks. Just go ahead.
No, not at all. What do you call it? But yeah, to me, I don't think I ever looked at Wall-E as being like sexually attracted or romantically drawn so much as this is a like fell in instant soulmate-ness with somebody, rather than I want to be a couple and hold hands in not wheelchairs, in I was going to say rocking chairs, but floating hover chairs.
Yes.
In a spaceship would be more appropriate. And that really is kind of in the classical sense, that sort of platonic ideal of love, and they absolutely nail it. And it's doubly genius of Pixar that they do it literally. Each of them speaks one word. Well, Wally gets two: his name and her name.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. Everything else is.
That's like one of the things that I not that I look for, but like that I really enjoy in all these films. Like in my top three, like how do you get someone who doesn't have, like, half the time can't feel anything to show love to someone? Or how do you get two little dragons to love each other? Like, how do you show two robots? Like, it goes down to the basis of of what is love, what defines love, what are acts of love, and it's not always sexualized. Like,
Yep.
And that's what
Absolutely.
that's why I picked them, because they're just so cute, and it just goes back to that, like, that's the romance that we all want, that just
Yep.
someone's going to be there with us.
I love the fact that two of your choices and one of my choice, there's no dialogue. That it's like the literal, the depiction of show don't tell. You can say I love you. That may seem sincere, it may seem insincere, whatever. The love language between Wally and Eva, and between Toothless and Light Fury, between Carl and Ellie, the little gestures, the nice things that they do for each other, is so much more clear and resonant than just saying I love you.
Yeah.
And just as an aside, Victoria, if you haven't seen it, I would, based on what you just said, very strongly recommend that you watch the anime Violet Evergarden. It would be so up your alley.
Okay.
All right, folks, that is it on this Valentine's Day. We've gone through our really broad range of interesting and different couples that we
had to cut a few for time.
And we did have to cut a few for time. Yeah, normally if we've only got a couple of people on, we do the honorable mentions, and so those didn't happen. And speaking of time, just to really quickly throw out a couple of promos. One is, of course, our Patreon page. The URL that's up there right now, patreon.com/nerdcaliber. We'd love to have you go check it out. And if you're there and you have an account and you would love to support us, we only have 3 tiers. The lowest one is $2. We take that revenue and we use it to get you more content. Go to cons now that, fingers crossed, cons are actually going to come back. Please, 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 please. So check it out, patreon.com/nerdcaliber. Upcoming, let's see, this is Monday. So tomorrow we have Nerd Week Live. We've got a lot of news. Obviously, a bunch of trailers dropped at that big sports ball thing. So, that's on the docket, but there's an awful lot of other news that's on there. Join us tomorrow at 8 o'clock. This coming, Full Fat Spoiler Chat. Too many shows, folks. Full Fat Spoiler Chat will be about the Guillermo del Toro movie Nightmare Alley. So if you have seen it or you don't mind spoilers, join us live at 8 o'clock. If you haven't seen it and you hate spoilers, or you hate spoilers, then you should probably wait until after you've seen it to watch the show. We're still working on what we're going to be doing for Anime Octane next Monday. So, folks, give us a goodbye. This time we're going to go around the other way. Greg, give us a goodbye.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. It's been great seeing you. I hope you enjoyed our Valentine's Day special here. If you're looking for photo stuff around Boston, check out Red Raven Studios. I'm losing the ability to English as the evening goes on as well. And I will see you guys on probably tomorrow and probably Thursday.
Awesome. Manny.
Take care, everyone. Be safe and enjoy the candy tomorrow.
There you go. Excellent. And Victoria.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I'm clearly the only one that wore pink. No one else wore pink. It had,
well, it's not Wednesday.
There's a theme, guys.
On Wednesday we wear pink. Sorry.
Except if it's Valentine's Day.
Okay.
There should be a review coming up soon with Manny and I. So check out that. And still practicing my sign-offs with Later Nerds.
There you go. We like that one. All right. As Victoria said, Later Nerds, please be safe out there, folks. It's cold, it's nasty, and then on top of that, of course, it's still Omicron. Wear the mask. If you haven't got the shots, get the boosters. And we will see you at an upcoming show or, maybe in a little while at a con. Happy Valentine's Day.